What's going on? This is Aaron Price, the CEO of TechUnited, back on LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, or wherever you are on some of these social media platforms. Talking today with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority about some really exciting programs. We've got with us Clark Smith, the Director of Innovation Programs from his lair in New Jersey, which is what it looks like. Clark, good to see you.
Thanks, Aaron. Yep, here in my live streaming studio, which is my living room in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Love it. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. We've also, for those who've been paying attention and are repeat guests, got a little music bed, the new function in the software. So you got a little slow jam in the background to keep things moving along, Clark. So you're our first person to experience the slow jam background music. I hope you like it.
Oh yeah, put you right in the mood, right?
If you feel so inclined to just like get up and dance throughout the show, this is a judgment-free zone. So just whatever you're feeling, you can go for it.
Sure.
Because I know that's how things are at the EDA. I've been to the office. I've come inside, and it's like a major dance party frequently. So you'd fit right in.
Yeah, certainly. We always have, it's right around this time normally, noon to.
I don't even think you'd call it the lunch hour. I think it's the dance off hour, isn't that? I think Tim Sullivan, he's known for these things.
Yeah, unfortunately, I work at a satellite office, so I don't get to see his moves too frequently.
So since this is exactly how we scripted, we'd start the show. Let's get right into the EDA, the Accelerate program, and the Evergreen programs. Before you get specific into those programs, for those who aren't as familiar with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, just remind those or share with anybody new to the organization, what is the EDA's overall mission and focus in New Jersey?
Yeah, certainly. And obviously, Aaron, thanks for having me today and all the folks at TechUnited. The EDA, also full name, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, which goes by the acronyms NJEDA or EDA in the marketplace. So we're an independent authority for the state of New Jersey with the mission of growing our economy here. Typically, that means jobs. We work with many different aspects of the business community here in the state, whether that's real estate, community development and Main Street, or the group that I work in, which economic growth, which targets more of our high technology industries. We do this through a variety of different programs, whether that is tax incentives that are created legislatively and then handed off to the EDA to administer. We do a lot of direct financing type of programs, and then just general ecosystem economic development activities.
Got it. So, by the way, hello, Philip on LinkedIn. If you drop your question in the chat, I'll bring it in. Philip mentioned he was just looking to connect with the EDA, Clark, so maybe we'll get a chance to address his question throughout the show at some point. Let's talk specifically, though, about two really interesting programs, Accelerate and Evergreen. I'm a very strong supporter of Evergreen and eager to see what we can do there. But just, again, we'll get into some of these details and the benefits and how people get involved, but tell people what these two programs are all about.
Certainly. So taking a quick step back, like our thought process around now of how we're developing programs and building out a suite of offerings to the market, we're utilizing two strategies. So the first one is continuum of growth. So we're looking to have programs that can support businesses from as early as ideation and inception, groups like the Commission in Science and Technology, which is launching R&D grants and those types of things. Please go ahead and Google and check those folks out. And then going through to the initial stages of the launch, and then moving on to growth and when companies are looking for venture funding. And then the other strategy that we're using is essential themes of support that we have identified 5 drivers that help companies get launched and successful. So obviously the top one there is capital access, but we also think around verticals such as ecosystem building, technical assistance, place-based. We are New Jersey, so we want to see folks here in the state. And then also importantly, diversity, inclusion aspects to programs. So the last thing I just throw in there is that our efforts are to work with the community. So these two programs are good examples of how we're developing public-private partnerships here.
Awesome. So For people who are interested in, let's first talk about Evergreen, right? What are the
Sure.
short-term, long-term goals here? Can you again, share a little bit more specifics on what is the Innovation Evergreen Fund and why it may be beneficial, for the technology and innovation community of the region?
Sure. So, easiest way to put it, Evergreen is going to be a funding mechanism that's looking to partner with the best in class venture funds here in the United States. So, when we're thinking about that, it is legislatively approved and it's going to have a significant amount of dollars behind it, upwards of $50 million a year. How are we actually getting this capital? So, in the first phase of the program, we're going to be partnering with corporates in the state to raise these funds via a tax credit auction. Uh, Interestingly, it's not just a financial bid that will get these, will win these credits, but there is a strategic benefit aspect to each corporate's bid, which will require a company to have, we're leaving it flexible to them, but launching things like mentorship programs, accelerators, partnering with maybe hackathons, those types of things to help build out the ecosystem. Um, when we're looking around maybe goals, obviously getting it up and running, that first part to do the tax auction is a big one. Um, and then moving into our second phase, which is approving the funds themselves. Uh, it will be sequential. So we'll raise the fund, approve venture capital funds. And then once we have a few initial class of funds online, we can then look at partnering with deals.
Awesome. So you did omit, hopefully not deliberately, one of the community engagement opportunities of companies potentially partnering with existing groups like TechUnited. In this case, speaking to some of this audience, would things like that, do you expect things like that to qualify as support?
Yeah, we're leaving it up to the corporations, but definitely it's one of the evaluation criterias is going to be how you partner in with the ecosystem. So that could be the corporates doing their own thing or getting together with other groups to help benefit and bring more tools to this ecosystem.
Are there any specific industries or areas of focus for Evergreen?
Yeah, so when we're looking at the companies and industry, the EDA has actually identified, I believe it's at 13 now, targeted industries. Um, you could probably assume on a general high level where we're looking at technology based companies, but these run the gambit from agricultural technology, clean technology, fintech, then to your more traditional hardware, software based businesses. And we're even looking at areas like advanced manufacturing, um, transportation and logistics, film and media, a lot of different areas here.
Excellent. So for companies, for individuals who think they might participate, for venture funds or for corporates, I know we've done some discussions on this. The EDA solicited feedback. Are there still opportunities for feedback, or is that window of opportunity closed?
Well, we're always going to be open to feedback on the system. I would say since this was created by legislation, it is a little bit more formal than just seeing us at an event and having a conversation. The best way to get in comments or various different types of feedback or just general information is via the website. There's a submit feedback function, which then will get it to the right portion of our organization that it can be addressed.
Excellent. And what do you think Evergreen means for the startup community? How does that drive more startup investment here?
Well, the short, easy answer is right, more capital in our ecosystem, but it takes more than just capital to grow businesses and the community as a whole. I think a main benefit will be the increase in entrepreneurial resources for companies here, whether that is um, access to investors and being able to dialogue and get feedback from them, or if it's the programs that are being offered by that come out of the corporate bids. And then another big, I think, benefactor of Evergreen, which we've already seen, is it's going to give a lot more attention to our market here. Our community has lots to offer. There's a lot of great companies here working on next generation disruptive technology. I think having something like Evergreen out there in the public helps increase the level of viewing from all across the country, not just locally here in New Jersey or the Philly, New York City markets.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's a great addition. Uh, we need a lot more capital market, and excited to see what this might bring in. It would be not, imagine if there were like a large tech festival where we could show off some of these companies. It'd be an interesting symbiotic relationship. Um, how do entrepreneurs necessarily set themselves up to be able to take advantage of this program? We've had a lot of entrepreneurs inquire about how might I eventually get access to these funds. Can you share? You talked a little bit about the way that it's tying into the approved venture funds. But can you just share a little bit more for the entrepreneurial community?
Well, we'll definitely be public around who is the funds that are approved for the program. So there'll be ability for founders to connect with the investors there. Actually, with the hub project that's down in New Brunswick, which will be a place for the community to gather. Any approved fund is going to have access to have folks based right there in New Brunswick. But I would say on the opposite side, the fund, or even with Accelerator program, are the drivers of these programs. So if folks are working with accelerators, if they're working with venture funds, if they're already in those conversations, helping to connect the dots between us and the funds would be much appreciated. Unfortunately, what we've seen with other programs, if companies and funds, if the transactions are already done and they've taken place, months in the past, it's too late. So when you're in those intro conversations, that's a great time to reach out to us to bring us into the conversation.
Awesome. So how does the Accelerate program tie into this? Can you share a little bit more about the details of Accelerate and how it's complementary to Evergreen?
Sure. So, Accelerate plays in, I think, with Evergreen and that continuum of support idea, right? So when companies are just getting off the ground, still scaling, building out teams, polishing products, this is a way for us to give resources to the community, but also help build them so they'll be prepared for that next level of funding, which then would tie into Evergreen. When we're looking at Accelerate, again, it's that public-private partnership. So we're teaming up and approving best-in-class accelerators here in the United States. And then when their graduate companies come out, there's two benefits that they can look to leverage. One is around rent. So we already have an established relationship with co-working facilities through our NJ Ignite program. So within 6 months of graduation, companies can look to get a benefit that will help offset the cost for their first lease. Any lease with one of these approved facilities here in New Jersey. And then there's also an investment benefit. So one of the requirements, if we're looking at the accelerator programs, the big things we're looking for is a structured curriculum, a cohort structure, and a funding mechanism. So we have an investment benefit that could then match the funding that they received from that accelerator program. And we've left it flexible. So traditionally that would be equity, but we can also look to match maybe some different types of structures as well.
Going back to Evergreen for a minute, I've heard some feedback that the top venture funds in the country are turning away LP dollars. And so there was some concern about, does this attract in the non-top VCs, because those that are performing very, very well tend to be oversubscribed. And I wonder if you have any thoughts on that and how we make sure we're attracting in, some of the best investors.
Yeah, so there is, if we're looking at quality, right? Like there is a minimum review and scoring mechanism. So not just on a dollar fund size, but pipelines here in New Jersey, experience, all comes into play on who's going to get approved. So, we aren't going to have just fly-by-night groups coming in and being able to leverage it. Then along on the high-end side, they are competitive from an investor standpoint, sometimes to be part of the actual fund. But the way that we're structuring this is it's an additional funding source for them. So we're actually not going to be investors in their fund, but this is going to be a separate pool where they can look to tap and match their investment, but the manager themselves still gets the same financial benefits around it. So I'm hoping that, and I think that not just myself, but one of the key thoughts was um, funds can use this in a variety of sources or a variety of ways. They can utilize it to maybe take bigger bites out of companies than they would. Um, it could be a way to de-lever risk if they're kind of on the fence. Well, here's an alternative source of capital that maybe not might not put as much LP money at risk, but there's still the same incentives around it.
Yeah, got it. And I think that holds water. All the other questions that have come back are: how does the where do the tax auction dollars go? Are they funding the innovation fund in lieu of paying their normal tax bill?
So with the tax credits, it's a haircut, right? So it's not like they're not paying taxes. Instead of paying $1, they will bid 95 cents on the dollar. So it's not a full. They don't have to pay taxes. The money though is going directly into the fund itself, so they will be redeployed into um, startups.
So the idea here is they're still paying taxes. The taxes are allocated for this fund through this commitment of, they get a financial benefit in the community engagement or the community support commitment. Is that right? Is that an accurate way to summarize that?
Yeah, yeah. So instead of directly paying that $1 in tax liability, you could use $1 in tax credit, which you paid, you know, whatever your bid was, which would be slightly less than $1. And beyond that, there's that non-financial obligation around strategic support initiatives.
Yeah, excellent. Just wanted to clarify that's come up also with some of these one-on-one conversations. Historically, how has the state supported accelerators? And then, now there seems to be this methodology between Ignite and Accelerate and then Evergreen. How do you see this kind of cohesively coming together to be a complementary strategy from early to growth stage startups?
So I would say that we've really upped our partnership level. So we've always had relationships with both the venture community and accelerators around the ecosystem, but our programs have been one-off. Um, they can participate, say, like if they made an investment in angel tax credit, or maybe we could have looked to partner on their investment through our direct funding. Um, Now, via Accelerate, we're having that straight one-on-one relationship with them. Um, we're hoping that increases the level of activity that we see, and also helps us with speed of deployment, right? So um, we're leveraging the fact that accelerators are doing due diligence before they bring companies on board. They have a very strict, regimented evaluation process. And then once a company is in the program, right, there's a big educational component and then mentorship component. They have networks so that stronger companies are coming out and then are in the ecosystem. I would add, it's not just New Jersey-based companies that we're looking at. It's great if a New Jersey company goes and participates in one of these programs. But on the flip, we're working nationally with programs. So we're hoping that there will also be companies that are going through an accelerator and then they see the strategic benefit of coming to New Jersey. And with the two different benefits on rent and investment, it brings more folks here. And the one last thing I would add is there actually is a benefit for the programs themselves, where we're going to look to sponsor events. So if they're doing things like demo days or recruiting events, we can help them offset the cost. And if folks aren't already aware of, there is a big event in May down in Atlantic City that's tied to the annual convention for the Angel Capital Association. This is one of the events where we're looking to bring our approved accelerators to have a presence there to interact with the community.
Yeah. Also happens to be just a few days before another event in May, which is our Catalyst Award programs, where we recognize best of breed innovators around the state. Which I hope we'll see you there as well, Clark. And we also will see you at that Atlantic City event, hopefully. Lastly, how do mentors, corporates, and talent not just benefit but also get involved with Accelerate if they're interested?
Sure. So as I just saw flash up all the approved accelerators, it's public knowledge. So there's 4 of them so far. Morgan Stanley's multicultural incubator, Venture Well, which starts, it's actually a suite of programs starting at the student level. Science Center in Philadelphia's Launch Lane program is on board. And then a third one is Clean Tech Open, which focuses on clean tech, renewable energy. Folks can directly reach out to them if they want to contact us. Best way is, again, through our website. We have an email specifically around NJ Accelerate at NJEDA. Gets directly to the team that works on Accelerate. Happy to help bridge those gaps to feed mentors into those organizations if they feel they can add benefit. Strategic partnerships with corporates goes the same way. And talent is a challenge and opportunity in all organizations, I think, nowadays. Most VCs and accelerators have now job boards tied to them. A lot of times an accelerator, that is one of the features that they can help bring on needed resources to companies beyond just maybe connections with other founders or investors. And I'd even throw out there, the EDA is looking for talent. My team has open positions that we're looking to fill, and across the board in all the different innovation programs here at the EDA, we're looking for folks. So.
Excellent. And as you know, I've talked about this before, I've been involved in the New Jersey innovation community for a little over a decade now and seen really, huge strides in the programs that EDA are putting out into market, and appreciate the investment in the region. There is one other question, though, that I keep getting reminded of in these conversations, which is we talk about this innovation ecosystem as if it's non-existent. Yet there are a variety of us, many traded groups. I know I'm obviously thinking here about TechUnited, but there are a lot of us who've actually been driving the innovation community for quite some time. How does the EDA think about how it can support the organizations like TechUnited in the process of also launching these other programs?
Yeah, so I've been now with the EDA for over 8 years. Prior to that, I was in business school in Newark at Rutgers Business School, and was focused right here, in the same arena around technology and venture. It's really why I went back to school. So I feel it's really complementary, right? We had an established set of programs and relationships, and we're just trying to continually build upon those. So not just bringing in new things and launching new things, but to bring folks that have already been here into those different programs and help grow them. So, we continue to support, whether that's financially or I think a lot of it is just what I always consider general ecosystem building, making introductions with folks, help spreading the word and joining in on the different types of PR. And it seems now the best avenues for that are going via different social media resources beyond the traditional just articles and newsletters and the sort. But I think the best way is always to try to get involved and get in contact with some of the different folks that align strategically with what your group's mission is. So whether that's folks like me that focus directly on supporting the companies and the other service providers, or that are in the ecosystem, if it's more on the investor side, one of my colleague Tim, Guiding Connected, with that group, or even just we have our sector leads now that are just looking to grow the industry in different verticals. We talked about targeted industries, so looking to partner up with those folks to work together on how we can continue to grow.
Excellent. And to be clear, the EDA has been a great partner at TechUnited, and I've shared this privately. I'm happy to mention here, I hope that the Evergreen Fund is something that can actually add additional support to the variety of groups and service providers who will be brought into the mix to support this effort. So hopefully we'll see that unfold. Clark, it's great to have you on the show. I really appreciate it. Hope you don't mind the slow jam. It's been fun to hear all about what's going on with the EDA, and very ambitious programming for people who aren't, especially from other regions. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority is very aggressive in many of these programs, and it's very much appreciated. So we'll end with our signature high five on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Good to see you. Be well, and hopefully I'll see you in the real world soon.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.